Hi, my name's Heather, and what if I told you right now people are living with flammable water? When you think of water, what do you think of? Liquid, right? So, people are currently living in towns where, because of hydrofracking, which is the expulsion of chemicals from the earth to get natural gas, because of that, there's so many chemicals in people's drinking water that it's flammable right out of the faucet. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Dangers of hydrofracking. So when I was in school, high school, um, I had a science teacher who was very passionate about what she talked about. So we got to the topic of hydrofracking and natural gas. And at first I was like, okay, so another topic, get through it, graduate, get on with my life. Well, after high school, I figured out that that was very interesting and it was a problem. So, I, and a few other students actually went to Durango, Colorado, where a contracted worker blew up because of malpractices in the hydrofracking field. Even the soil in that area looked poor. Everything seemed gray, and no, it wasn't a rainy day. It was just bad. It's bleak. You have no idea unless you live in one of them areas. You really don't. The water is cloudy, yellow. People have to buy water. It's like they have water, they have to buy it to bathe in, to drink, to cook with. So yeah, that's why we're going to talk about the dangers of it today, so I can inform you on the things that I already know. So that brings me to my first point: extreme water contamination. So we've heard of water contamination, but what's extreme water contamination? Well, according to Carl Gibson, in his article, Nine Good Reasons to Ban Fracking Immediately, in California and West Virginia, if they drink their water, it could result in respiratory problems, sensory problems, and neurological problems. So this water is affecting portions of the brain and development. So I'm not a parent, but if I was, I would be very concerned about my kids and any future kids I would have just by drinking or bathing. In the video Gasland, it is a pretty popular video. It's an HBO documentary. Josh Fox unearths the secrets that hydraulic fracking companies don't want you to hear. So he goes to impacted towns and basically interviews regular citizens after companies that do hydrofracking won't interview with him because they know. Um, in the video, Fox interviews a woman in Pennsylvania saying that her water from the well bubbles and hisses at her. Up the street from her is Mrs. Wells, where her water well exploded. Mrs. Wells also put her water in a jar, and her son put a match to it, and it exploded. Not only was her and her family impacted, so were her animals. Which brings me to my second point. Even if humans don't drink the water, the animals will. So, like I mentioned in the Gasland video, Josh Fox interviews Mrs. Wells. Mrs. Wells had land on which she had horses and other animals. She shows us in the video how her horses and her cats, especially, have their hair falling out and they're losing weight dramatically. So, according to the article that another person brings up called 7 Ugly Reasons Why Wilderness Lovers Should Be Worried, animals, they were really a good point about animals. Animals don't know any better and will drink the water. Think about that for a minute. If you were a hunter and your sole source of food was in the wilderness, and you know that when deer, for example, drink the water, that infects their meat, which infects your family in the long run. So, if you're not concerned about animals or the hunting or whatever, I do have to bring up one more point. Drought. So we know about the drought in California and other places, and you're like, okay, I don't have drought here. Well, you could in the future. So, in the movie Gaston, like I've mentioned before, Josh brought up a few key points. 1 to 12 million gallons of water is used for the first time so an area is hydrofracked. An area can be hydrofracked up to 18 times in its life. And 1 to 7 million gallons of water is used every time. So think about how much water that is. And according to the article 8 Dangerous Side Effects that the fracking industry doesn't want you to hear about, Raymond Loki states more than 90% of water in fracking wells never returns to the surface. And since that water never returns to the water cycle, this is bad news for drought-inflicted states. So just because you're not a drought-inflicted state right now doesn't mean you won't be. Because think about it. They're eventually going to need the water from somewhere. They'll borrow it from New York. They'll borrow it from Pennsylvania. They'll borrow it from Florida. They don't care. So yes, hydraulic fracking does make a big negative and life-threatening difference in the world. It causes water contamination that affects both humans and animals alike. Also, hydrofracking contributes to droughts in many states. In conclusion, I would just like all of you to think about something tonight for me, okay? I would really like you to think about if you were told you can't use your current water for bathing, for cooking, for cleaning, for laundry, for drinking, what would you do? How would that impact your life? Financially, physically, mentally? What would that do to your life? Now, think about that and realize it's scary stuff, people. So, yeah, hydrofracking is bad. And that's all I have, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.